I'm always on the lookout for games that played in a shared space amongst all the players, a board that keeps everyone's focus. A lot of times that leads to area control, which maybe doesn't quite hit the mood, maybe because it's too aggressive, maybe it's a little too thinky, maybe it's just a little too, well, beige. But there's one that is beloved by myself and all my friends. That game is Rumble Nation. Now, what do you do in the game of Rumble Nation? Well, you and up to three other players will be taking turns rolling die to place out visitors across Japan in preparation for the Sakura Festival. Well, you'll be placing out warriors in preparation for Civil War. Now, visitors or warriors, it's about how you use the die each turn that elevates this above just a plain abstract for me. After you roll the die each turn, you'll have a decision to make. You'll use two of these die to determine where you might place warriors, and the last die will help you determine how many warriors you place. So, I could use this combination to shore up my defenses in 10 with one warrior, or I could show yellow that despite getting clammy hands on bridges, I'm not a coward, and toss 3 warriors into 5. So even though the dice narrow down your decision space so much each turn, there's still a lot to think about. If I don't place in 10 now, am I going to roll a 10 again? Throwing down 3 warriors in 5 is nice, but that's just less warriors for me to place out in the future. And you may think to yourself, well, isn't going for the bigger numbers always better? Well, sometimes not. So let's talk about the Sakura Festival. Or war, if you prefer to talk about war. So how does one war in Rumble Nation? Well, everyone's already placed all their warriors, so there's actually no more decisions to be made. Just castles to fight over. We'll go in ascending order, starting with 2, the lowest point value castle, and for each battle, the loser takes home a silver medal, and the winner, they take home the grand prize. But more importantly, they've mastered 15th century cloning technology and push out reinforcements to all adjacent battlefields, which might win them more territories, which might push reinforcements out to more adjacent battlefields, which might win them even more territory. This cascading effect of the reinforcements, though, it does so much to make the first half of the game more tense. Suddenly, the game's a little less calculable. The borders are a little fuzzier. It makes the die less punishing as well, because it's not about having the most warriors in the best territories. Sometimes it's about having the most warriors in the supporting territories, giving you more options of where you might want to focus yourself on the battlefield. The map setup at the start of the game will also largely inform how war is going to unfold. Sometimes you end up in situations where the large points clump up in the middle of the map as players fight tooth and nail to climb the mountain for them. Sometimes you'll end up with the large points spread out throughout the map, ending up in much scrappier fights while players try to determine where they're actually going to focus their efforts on the battlefield. There are 2 more mechanics from the first half of this game that I feel like I've got to gush about, both of which help sway the tempo of the game a little bit. Now, in a lot of area control games, being the first person out of units is problematic. There's nothing for you to do but sit back and watch all the degenerates around you muck up the board with their grimy little fingers. In Rumble Nation, it's a little bit different because of these sword tokens. The first person to have all their units out on the board gets the first sword token, which means they win all ties they're involved in the second half of the game. The second player with all their units out gets this 2 sword token, which beats 3 and 4 in ties, etc., etc. And in a game with battles averaging anywhere between 2 and 5 warriors, there are going to be ties, and there are going to be a lot of them. So, you start to hit the end of that first phase, and you think to yourself, well, I've done everything I can at this point, maybe I just start putting out as many units as I can, just to go after those tokens. The second tempo consideration is the cards that have been sitting cheekily by the side of the board. You've got cards that will move your own units, you've got cards that will move enemy units, and you've got cards that will change piece color, no paint necessary. These cards can be pretty consequential too. You might end up in situations where players are delaying going after high value territory just because a card might be used against them. You might use a card suboptimally just so it doesn't get used against you. There is one way out of the cardstock tyranny though, and that is when one player has placed their last warrior on the board, these are removed from the game. Which adds another consideration for you because as you start to look around and you see blue only has a couple cubes left, yellow a few more, you start to think, well, can I delay using these cards? Should I forgo my turn to use one? I assume it goes without saying at this point that I adore Rumble Nation. I get that it's not a game for all moods, though. Sometimes you're not willing to be at the whims of the die. I get it. Beige Boys for life. And sometimes you might reach a degenerate in-game state where you're deciding between two winners and neither of which is you.
I'm here to present you with a special offer. Right now, we're selling the greatest hits in one package. Now that's what I call Excuses Volume 1. With hits like If Only I Rolled a 12 and First Player Advantage, you don't want to miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime collection. Just for 3 installments of $19.99 US, you can make this yours. Call 1-555-CRY-MORE. That is 1-555-CRY-MORE now.
And if you come to this game for a sense of faction or asymmetry, you're not going to get it here. There's nothing to differentiate you from the other players other than piece color and, well, your poor life decisions. But if you're looking for an interactive game in 30 minutes that is aggressive yet hard to take personal, I would say look no further than Rumble Nation.